We have something very special today. You guys want to see it? Been eyeing this for a long time, so. Oh yeah. I'm actually going to give you guys a sneak peek and a little something here in a bit too. But again, Black Friday 2024. The clutch on the STI is also on its way out either way, so I figured why not? And oh yes I did. Your boy is gonna be back driving a twin disc, this time ACT, the mod twin, which is, we'll get into it here, it's one of the new ones. Yeah, let's just dive on in. Here's how it comes. Got your alignment tool there. Got some cool stickers. Got the SFI certification card. Cool, if you want some stickers. Oh, here's another hint. I got so many stickers everywhere. Gotta just keep them somewhere. All right. Throw out bearing also, which I've been told to use the factory one instead. Well, they call it a release bearing. I don't know. There it is. Ta-da! So I am actually not going to be installing this myself, so I'll talk to Rich about the throw-out bearing. Put that aside for a second, but here it is. The mod twin ACT twin disc. She is gorgeous, let me tell you. I did just take off the wrap. Comes like neatly wrapped, but there you go. Here comes with a little bit of lube. If you love her, lube her, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's take it out here. Give me a sec. So there you go. I gotta say, this thing, seeing pictures of it is one thing, but it really is, literally looks like a work of art. Such a shame it's gonna be literally never seen. And if you are seeing it, it's because you gotta replace it or something went super wrong. But yeah, here it is again, twin disc. Obviously, this one has the flywheel as a part of the whole unit there. Comes with a brand new, what is this called again? The idler bearing? But anyways, comes with it. Flywheel, obviously, part of the whole unit. The ACT monolock. It's pretty rad, honestly. Now, this one, there's different... ACT does offer different options. This one is the Sprung, which we'll talk about here in a sec, version. They also have what they call the rigid option with the centerpiece. And I believe also for the, at least for the STI, I know they also make them for Evos, and they're slowly rolling them out to other applications. Different friction discs, different material, more aggressive versus a little bit less aggressive. But I mean, let's get into it. I'm gonna start taking the bolts off. To actually, I want to show you guys the whole thing taken apart just to really see exactly what a twin disc looks like. Again, I'm used to the Exedi twin discs, which are pretty noisy. Obviously, they hold the power just fine, but they're pretty noisy. The ACT one is actually intended to be way less noisy, and I believe that's what these little guys are for here, to keep everything kind of spread apart. If you've ever driven or even heard a car with a twin disc, you'll get that that chatter, and that's these plates right here chattering with the friction plates. So I think ACT has created this one to basically either eliminate it altogether or significantly reduce it. It's not light by any means. I do actually kind of want to throw it on the scale. I wonder if this whole unit compared to the OEM piece, if it's heavier or lighter. I'm pretty sure even if it's twin disc, this whole unit's actually still lighter than the factory piece. Don't quote me on that, but I'll have to double check that. But yeah, let's take off these bolts here and see what the twin disc magic is all about. Well, here you have it, all taken apart. And again, this is like the top section, kind of working our way down. But again, all taken apart. And the build quality is pretty wild on it. Here's the center, quote unquote, floating section. And again, you can see the little tabs here. That's essentially what should, in theory, keep this thing from rattling too much. So it's got 3, 6, well, I guess it's one unit, right? But it's 3 on this side, 3 on this side. There's the flywheel. Here's the second plate. But yeah, the one I ended up going with was the Sprung version. So that's this center section. And again, you can see it's similar to just like a regular single clutch type, where this center section is sprung. So again, the idea there is when the clutch catches, it's got some give with the springs. So it's not such a hard, let's call it a shock right on the transmission and everything. So it'll be really nice. And it's honestly pretty insane that the fact that they have the sprung center hub here with a twin disc, which is pretty wild. I don't think ACT does that. They might now, I'm not sure. But again, I've heard amazing things about this clutch. That's why I ended up going with it to begin with. I figured I might as well get a nice clutch while I'm in here. Again, the clutch has to be serviced anyways. So yeah, and again, the flywheel, here it is. Nicely machined. Got a nice new bearing there in the middle. Not much to it, but again, it's kind of cool that they have the whole thing just as one piece, essentially. I mean, multiple pieces, but it's one unit. But yeah, essentially it goes like this. We got the flywheel. We got this center section there first. Oh, and this is the organic material. So in theory, it should be not as gnarly as some of the other offerings that they have. You can replace the center section here. You have the option of this sprung center section, or you have what they call the rigid one. So it just basically looks just like this without the springs. And also, knock on wood, when the time comes, when you have to replace the clutch, let's say burnt out or it's not, I don't know, grabbing or whatever, you literally just replace the friction discs here. And again, these are organic material, disc material. They do have different offerings if you want to go a little bit crazier. And again, sprung or unsprung here. But again, we went kind of with like the mild version. It's still a twin disc. So, you know, it's still pretty wild. But then there's that. There you go. Pretty cool. And if you're wondering how much torque this thing can handle, oh, you know, 700 foot-pounds, 97% increase over OEM. We talked about organic material. This whole unit allegedly weighs 28.1 pounds, which is pretty rad. I'm not sure exactly what the factory one weighs, but might be similar. If not, I would assume this one might be a little lighter. 255 millimeter clutch discs diameter, and obviously just the factory input shaft diameter there. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is. That part goes like that. Should probably align these guys. There you go. But again, that's essentially the twin disc in a nutshell. This part of the video is just going to kind of be honestly unboxing, talking about it. I do have a meeting with Rich over at Rawworks in a few days, so he's actually going to be installing it. I will not be doing it myself. I could. I've done them in the past. I'll be honest though, I'm not thrilled about having to yank the transmission, especially just here in the garage. It'd be nice to have a lift. Rich has all the tools. Obviously, he does it for a living. He's amazing, so I'm just going to have him do it. So we'll take a pause here in the video. I'm going to do a follow-up once everything's done, once everything is installed. But yeah, we'll kind of pick it up from there. If you're still watching the video, by the way, all 12 of you, I also ordered, so the oil pan's in. If you saw my earlier video, that's been installed. We're good to go there. In this box, I have a Faction Fab steering wheel, so that's also going to be installed. I will make a video. I have one more piece coming from Black Friday, so I'm going to wait to do the one that's coming in and then the steering wheel. But again, I'll do videos of everything. Either way, just figured why not. But yeah, let's take a pause. I'm going to throw everything back in the box there. And yeah, go from there. So we're back here in the office. So I've officially gotten the car back from Rich over at Raw Works. Amazing. Can't say good things about the guy. He does incredible work. I got the car last night. It was like an overnight thing, so it did take a full day of working on it. Got the car back last night, so just kind of want to make a quick update on the clutch itself. I did drive it literally in disgusting downtown bumper-to-bumper traffic after I picked the car up last night. I did stall it 3 times, so 2 of those were in the parking lot as I was leaving. I'm sure Rich, if you're watching, probably not, like this idiot. So I stalled it already 3 times. It's I literally feel like I'm relearning how to drive my own vehicle, which is insane. But we'll get into that here in just a second. But again, I feel like I needed a quick update, just kind of like, if I was to buy this thing, this clutch myself, I want to like hear someone's perspective, which there are a couple videos out there, but again, specifically on the STI, specifically on this model. So let's just get into it. I'll run kind of through the couple of specs here with this one. But so I got the ACT Mod Twin 225 heavy duty sprung street clutch disc. That's like the full name. The T1S SO5. I'll put it all in the description, so don't worry about memorizing any of this stuff. Basically, the version I got is ACT's version of like, this is like the more milder version. They do have all kinds of other versions as well. Sprung's center section is the one I got, versus they call it a rigid center section, which is basically just gets rid of the springs in there. I got the organic material discs. They have ceramic. Again, you can customize this thing like crazy. So I literally got, I think they don't make a softer version. I literally got the intro level, and by intro level I mean not cost or anything like that. It's literally like the one that's the most street friendly, the one that handles or is capable of handling the least amount of torque, if that makes sense. Again, we'll get into that, but essentially what this one means, the T1SO5 version, again, it's the sprung center section, so it has the little springs, just kind of like any other regular single disc clutch. So again, that's intended so that when you're actually engaging the clutch, it's got some give. So from the, if you think about like the flywheel turning and engaging versus what the transmission's seeing on the back end, the sprung center section is designed so that it's not just such an on and off switch. So that's what I got. The sprung center section, according to ACT's website, which I'm on right now, the torque capacity, because again, clutches are rated in torque, not horsepower, fun fact. The torque capacity over OEM, well, the torque capacity in general for this clutch, is 700 foot-pounds, which is unbelievable. This is also measured at the crank, so at the engine, not what you're putting down to the wheels, FYI. That translates to a torque capacity over factory of 97%. I know you're like, why did you buy this thing? First of all, it's insane how much torque this thing can handle. The actual friction discs, again, I mentioned it earlier, it's an organic material, so it's supposed to be a little bit nicer, not like ceramic is definitely a step up from that. So that's essentially what the T1 SO5 is. Sprung center section, 700 foot-pounds in organic discs. And again, it's a whole unit, right? We got the flywheel, we got the 2 discs, we have the center section, the actual pressure plate on the front. So it's literally a whole unit. Now, the nice part about these things is that you can rebuild them. Like I've mentioned, you have the center section. If you don't like it, you can change it out. You can go from rigid to sprung to rigid, whatever you want to do there. Organic material versus the ceramic. Again, the ceramic ones are designed to take more heat. They also take a lot more load. So I think the next step up, it's somewhere in the 800 foot-pounds. Again, if you're having a ton of power, if you're beating the hell out of this thing, it's going to handle it. So there's a twin disc made for you. So again, per the doctor's orders, aka Rich, or wherever it works, the break-in period for this thing's going to be 500 miles. He did tell me, do not ride the clutch. So don't kind of like really, especially with all-wheel drive cars, I feel like it's hard to explain. A lot of people treat the clutch as like an on and off switch. Riding it you're kind of more like trying to be a little bit more linear, a little bit softer with it. So try not to ride the clutch again for the first 500 miles. He did mention also the soft feel that you feel right now, like however it feels right now, should not change from now throughout the entire life of the clutch. If the pedal feel changes, whether it gets softer or harder, there's something wrong or you're not bedding it incorrectly. So again, that's literally straight from Rich. I trust him 1,000% with all this stuff. He's the expert, not me. I'm just some dude. So keep that in mind. But yeah, let's talk about it. Pedal feel, because I feel like this is one that, again, you have a car, it's got a clutch. Tell me more about this stuff, right? I had no idea what I was getting into. I did have, weirdly enough, his name is also Rich, another guy that has a much nicer, super, built STI. He has this clutch. And I started talking to him. I'm like, hey, I feel like the clutch in the STI is going out. I know it's a wear item. It's got definitely more power than OEM. It's on flex fuel, so it's putting down 415 torque to the wheels. That's to the wheels, not to mention whatever's at the crank. We started talking, and he was like, dude, consider this clutch. He was running it. So again, I just had no idea, like no frame of reference other than like previous cars I've had in the past. I had a Mark III Supra that had a very gnarly, it was like a 5 or 6 puck ACT clutch, which was horrendous. The pedal feel was insane. I felt like I was doing a workout. I also had an Evo 8, which had the Excetti twin disc, which was so loud, dude. It was so obnoxious, but it held the power. And again, the pedal feel was pretty gnarly. Not as bad as the Supra that I had, but pretty gnarly nonetheless. So I was like, all right, pedal feel, I have no frame of reference. So that's why I'm literally putting this together in case you're maybe on the market for one. So I will say, I don't know how, ACT, shout out to you guys. The pedal feel, keep in mind, before this clutch went in, I was running the factory clutch. I even saw Rich when he pulled it out. Somehow, this clutch feels smoother and lighter than the OEM piece, the OEM clutch. Oh, what? How? It's magic, dude. I don't even know. When I first got in the car, I'm not gonna lie, in the parking lot, when I went to start it, you gotta push the clutch, and I'm like, sus, right? Like, why is it so light? That's why I stalled it twice, just leaving the parking lot. Because I'm like, it feels like it's very linear, but it's also, again, I'll get into that, but it's super smooth, super, super smooth. I also feel like the previous clutch had a ton of miles. It was not doing so hot. So it's just a lot smoother from what I was running before. And somehow, again, ACT, shout out to you guys again, feels lighter than OEM, which is, my mind exploded. I'm like, I can't believe, considering how much torque this thing should be able to handle. The downside, if you want to call it a downside, and I feel like for me, it's just a matter of getting used to it. Like I said, I'm literally relearning how to drive the car. I feel like it almost feels, and I hate to use this term because it's not really what it is, But if you want to think about it like this, so it makes more sense in your head, it does feel almost like a on and off switch compared to the factory one. Now, I guess a better way to put it is the range of engagement is shorter than the factory clutch. It's not an on and off switch. I've driven cars with clutches that are just like, just dump it, like literally throttle it, dump it, hope for the best. It's not that, but it definitely, again, the range of engagement, it does feel like it's a lot shorter than the factory clutch. Now, if you're running other stuff, I can't speak on that, but this is literally just comparing the factory STI clutch versus the mod twin that I put in. Well, Rich put in. I just paid him to do it. The range is a lot shorter, so just keep that in mind. The factory one, again, it just feels like you can be a way more linear. Obviously, it's a factory car. You know, they're going to make it so that people can drive these things a lot smoother. So I would say, again, the range just got a lot shorter. When it actually engages, and again, this is kind of where I'm kind of relearning my own car. When it engages, that's when you're like, oh, this thing is like it means business. Don't let that light pedal feel fool you. When it engages, it engages. That's where I was like, it's super weird that it's so light. But then when it engages, you're like, oh, okay. And then that's when I stalled the car twice, leaving the parking lot. So pedal feel in and of itself, I'm not kidding. Rich said this to me too. You could put this clutch, if you want to spend this kind of money on a clutch, on a factory STI. And as long as you can get used to how the pedal behaves, you could daily drive this thing. It's, for me, considering what I'm doing with the car, we'll get into that maybe at the end of the video, but pedal feel, drivability, street drivability, just living with this thing was very important. So that's why I'm like, well, if I'm gonna, go for it, I'm gonna get a nice clutch. So I will say you could literally slap this thing on a factory STI and you could drive it, no problem. Now moving on to, again, the drivability, right? The everydayness of this thing. Let's get into it, because again, I have had other twin discs, different cars, Evos in the past. The twin disc, if you guys are familiar with it, the chatter. Oh my God, the Excetti twin discs, again, just comparing it to the Evo I had back in the day. Back in my day, was what, 15 years ago now? Holy crap. The old twin discs, like the Excetti, no shade to them. They make amazing clutches. The Evo I had with the twin disc held the power, but it was so obnoxious. Like, and you're making that kind of power. I think that one had like 650 to the wheels. You're making that kind of power. Honestly, you don't really care about noises. You just want this thing to hold. Somehow, again, this thing, I have yet to encounter that twin disc chatter, because again, like those little tabs that are designed to almost like spread the thing apart so that it's not chattering right as it's spinning like you're in neutral or in gear. I have yet to encounter that, to be honest, which is insane as well for a twin disc, that it doesn't make that kind of noise. Does it make some noise? I think it probably does. However, you've seen my car. It's got exhaust. It's obnoxious. It's loud. But a twin disc chatter is very, very obvious. I have yet to encounter that with this, and I'm still in the break. I think I've put 100 miles out of the 500 to break it in so far. That's insane. The fact that it's that quiet, aka more streetable, more, everyday friendly, even though I don't daily drive the car anymore. So just keep that in mind. Again, another massive plus. Shout out to ACT for the third time now. That's amazing. I couldn't believe how quiet it was. Rich did change the transmission fluid back to just running regular Motul gear oil, which feels incredible. So that cocktail thing, don't do it. Just run regular Motul oil. It'll be the best thing. Okay, now I feel like everyone's kind of wondering, right? At least I was before I pulled the trigger on this myself. The cost. What does it cost versus like, hey, I'm just going to replace it with either a factory one. I think the factory one's Excetti. Or like a single disc ACT or, whatever else you decide to run. What does it cost? What am I looking at here? I kind of had a hard time finding like literally out the door kind of prices for everything. I understand why, because there's a lot of variables there. Keep in mind the clutch alone. Again, this is for mine specifically. I don't know. The other ones, there's a little bit of a range of prices. Right now on ACT's website, this is December 2024, my exact clutch on the website right now is $1,904.85. It's a $2,000 clutch. It is not cheap. Did I pay that? No, I did not. Shout out to Black Friday deals. But I have a feeling that's basically going to be the norm going forward. That's like their deal right now. MSRP, what they're showing is about $2,200. For a clutch, that's insane. That is a lot of money considering what like a single disc would cost you or an OEM, replacement would cost you. For $2,000, you could honestly take your car to a shop, put in a factory clutch, fluids, labor, everything, and you're probably looking at that figure roughly. So you're paying that just for the clutch. So keep that in mind. It's not cheap by any means. Labor itself, this again really depends on who you go to, how much they're charging per hour of labor, and also how many hours of labor they're charging you. Again, shops, I feel like nowadays will charge you anywhere from, I've heard on the high side $200-ish, on the low side somewhere around $80. Again, it just kind of depends on who you take it to. So just keep that in mind when you're also considering this. If you're going to take it in, if you do it yourself, obviously you're going to just do all the labor. I personally did want to take it in. It's something I could have done in the garage. I don't have a lift, so it would have taken me, I would say honestly, probably a couple of days to do it myself. I was like, I definitely trust Rich. I trust his work. I'd rather just take it in and, have him do it properly and in a day, which is wild. So again, kind of keep that in mind, the range of how much they charge you per hour and also how many hours of labor they're going to charge you. I'm roughly seeing about 7 to 10 hours of labor. So again, just kind of keep that in mind. You can definitely call around, get a quote specific to your car, to your area, whatever you're deciding to do on your end. Not to mention any fluids, extra hardware. We did put our new clutch fork in mind when we just did it. So again, if you get fancy with it, the price could definitely go up. Or if you just bare minimum bones, it could be a little bit cheaper. But roughly right now with the clutch being about $2,000 altogether, you're probably in the neighborhood of like $3,500-ish, just to be a little bit more conservative for a clutch. That's a lot. It is a lot. So again, just keep that in mind. It's not a cheap clutch by any means, but you have an STI. You're probably used to this kind of stuff anyways. I know I am. Random. My backup lights are working again. So if you're familiar with the STIs, they have the rear backup switch, like where it turns on like the rear backup lights on top of the transmission, which I bought the switch thinking like, oh, it's like a $30 switch. I'll replace it, no problem. Until I found out where it was located in the car, on top of the transmission, kind of like behind the bell housing area-ish. I was like, I'm not doing this. Like literally in order to replace that thing, at least for me, I would have to probably drop the transmission. I've seen some people kind of angle it. I was like, screw it. I'm just going to wait till we do the clutch. So my backup light switch my backup lights have not been working for probably about a year now. So I am super excited that they're now working. So again, thank you, Rich. That's incredible. I was just so excited to have those back. But anyways, overall, if I was in the market for one, would you recommend this thing? Short answer, well, let me put it this way. If you have mods, so if your car's not factory, if you have mods, if you're putting more power than factory, if you track the car, so that's if you have mods, making more power than factory. If you track the car or abuse it in any way, you're not, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't do this. You should, like street racing and you're launching the hell out of it. If you're tracking it or abusing it in any way, shape, or form, and if you have the money, I would say go for it. It's an incredible clutch. Would I recommend it? Yes. If those three things, for me. If you're making more power, if you abuse it, and if you have the money to spend this kind of money on a clutch, I would say go for it. I'm very happy I did. Again, this is also something I've been literally talking about since Rich put in the closed deck motor in that thing, which was pre-COVID. So we're talking about 5 years now, roughly. When the engine came out, he's like, hey man, by the way, you're gonna have to do the clutch down the line. Just FYI, I think at the time it was like right around 60%. When he did take it out this last time I looked at it, it still actually had a tiny bit of life, but it was, you could tell it was on its way out. Now, keep in mind, I do kind of try to drive like a grandma with the car, at least. I mean, I always do. Even now with the new clutch, I don't think I'm going to abuse it really. I do want to see some track time, but we'll get to that. So, yeah, again, it was something I had to do. I was going to do it anyway, so the clutch was going to get replaced either way this month. So I was like, you know what, I'm in there. Labor's not going to change necessarily too much, right? If you're putting like a OEM replacement versus like a crazy clutch, you're still, if you're going to take it in at least, you're going to look at the same labor roughly. So yeah, I would recommend it again, but keep in mind it is a gnarly clutch. It's not just a couple $100 to replace like, you know, some of the other stuff might be. But yeah, if you're in the market for it, if you're even considering it for whatever reason, maybe you make a ton of power, you take it to the drag strip, you do time attack or whatever, I would say I'm very, very happy with it. Keep in mind, I've literally put in about 100 miles. I'm still in the break-in period. I've driven, again, twin disc in the past, which is, this one is just, it blows me away. I can't believe ACT were able to build a clutch. I think my only beef with it is and again, this is me. This isn't like anything against the clutch at all. I feel like I'm just relearning how to drive my own car because that engagement range is so much shorter compared to the factory one. Once you get used to it, I mean, it's literally, it's quiet. The engagement is nice if you're not, you know, driving it like a jackass. It's yeah, again, I'm blown away. I know it might sound a little biased, but I definitely had my hesitations for a long time. That's why I was reading on all kinds of clutches, not just ACT, you know, kind of like the future of the car, what I want to do with it. So yeah, I would recommend it. Again, my car right now puts down 415, this is torque, not horsepower, 415 of the wheels, all four wheels. So again, if you're talking about launching the car, which I think I've launched my car about 5 times the entire time I've ever had it. Yeah, definitely go with something like this. Mod ACT, incredible stuff. Again, Excetti is another excellent option, but just from my personal experience, they're just not, they're way louder. First of all, that chatter, and it's just not a streetable, like you're going to hate driving the car if you're street driving it. If it's like a solely like a track car, you're taking it just for that. You have a daily, I don't know, you tow the car to the track, I don't know. Then sure, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if you're going to be driving the car in the street, you want some sort of streetability still to remain in the car so that it's streetable and it's not ridiculous. This clutch is definitely the answer. Again, I had my hesitations, so again, shout out to ACT, shout out to Rich, which he is so knowledgeable with all this stuff. Yeah, I would recommend it, again, if those 3 things. But if you really wanted to, you could literally throw this thing on a stock car. That's how good that clutch is. That's how smooth it is. That's how light the pedal feel is. My girlfriend could get in the STI and drive it. I think the biggest thing for me, and again, just learning it, is that it does feel almost, again, I don't want to use the term, but it's on and off. It's just a lot narrower. You can definitely kind of ease off of it. But again, right now with the braking period, I don't really want to do that. So I've just been giving the car just a couple of blips of throttle. Oh my God, I didn't even talk about that. A couple of blips of throttle, get in gear, get going, whatever. Don't ride the clutch. The car itself, now with the new clutch, again, I have like 100 miles on it. I'm also learning how to shift, like between shifts, because it revs This thing, real quick, I think I mentioned earlier, weighs 28.1 pounds. This is from their website. I did not weigh the factory one. Someone else put in the comments if you know how much the factory flywheel, clutch, the whole unit weighs compared to this thing. I can tell you right now, just by driving the car back to back, this thing weighs, like, the car revs so much faster now. So you give it a little bit of throttle like what I was used to, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's quicker. It shoots up, which is nice, but also like it kind of sucks because also when you're like downshifting, I feel like I got to recalibrate my brain on how to do it so that it's smooth. So again, another thing, I just got to literally relearn how to drive my own car. But I did notice that the car itself, because of it, I feel like it's revving a lot quicker. It feels, the best way I can put it, it feels lighter on its feet. I know it sounds weird, but it does literally feel lighter on its feet, revving it, going through the gears. That's the best way I can put it in a positive way. It does feel so much better. The bad part about that is that you definitely have to kind of, again, relearn how to drive your own car, not to stall it, and also shift in between gears, because the moment, let's say you're driving it, you're engaged in gear, the moment you go to put the clutch in, I feel like the revs, before they kind of slowly drop off, now they definitely drop a lot faster. So again, it's another thing you kind of have to relearn how to drive your car, at least if you want to drive it smoother, right? Not so jerky and everything. So keep in mind, you have less rotating mass. I'm pretty sure, just given the way the car feels, you do kind of have to relearn that a little bit. So again, I know I kind of just gave you a bunch of random stuff. Again, that's kind of how I feel about the clutch. Again, I have 100 miles on it. I have no intention, honestly, now that these things exist, of ever going back to a single disc, unless it's like a car I bought and it's just not an option or whatever. But it is a wild clutch. I mean that in the best way possible. Not cheap by any means. But I'll be honest, this is car number 13, 14, whatever it is for me. It's the car I've held on to the longest, and I also don't have any plans of selling it, to be honest, just given everything going on now. So I was like, when I kind of made that mental decision, I'm like, you know what, screw it, I'll get this clutch. So again, massive shout out to ACT, massive shout out to Rich over at Rawworks. Do some research. Again, if it makes sense for you, I would say if you're taking it in, especially somewhere, give them a call. I do wish I kind of spoke with Rich about this. I did talk to him before I even bought the clutch, just kind of pick his brain a little bit, which was super helpful. So yeah, I would say if you're going to take it in somewhere, or like you're working with a shop that, again, knows what they're doing, give them a call, kind of tell them kind of your power, your goals with the car. If you're willing to live with certain things, again, do some research. But again, when I was looking at this thing, I definitely wanted to get more info. So if this helps you in some way, shape, or form, then awesome. I'm glad it did. But yeah, again, I'm super happy with it. I'm going to continue to drive the car here and there, keep doing the break-in period. But I can't believe it's that quiet. And again, it's literally just 100 miles on the thing. So yeah, I'm super excited. And the fact that now if I decide to go more power, now, just recently with the oil pan that I'm sure you guys saw, it's one of my other videos, I can track the car now, I feel like, finally. Got the oil pan, got the clutch replaced, which I was also terrified of that thing going out. Yeah, so again, it just kind of depends on what you want to do with your car. I want to start tracking this thing. I miss going to the track. So yeah, again, hopefully this helped you a little bit. If you have any questions, concerns, or again, if you even have it yourself, or know about how much the factory one weighs versus this one, please comment down below, because I do want to know. I guess I could look it up. I haven't, to be honest, but again, the car revs so much faster. I'm sure this thing is lighter than the factory flywheel, the whole unit, the pressure plate, the clutch, everything. But if you know exactly what it weighs, I'm curious, comment down below. But yeah, I think I've talked enough. It's almost, oh my gosh, another like 30-minute video for me here. But again, if you have questions, reach out. Happy to share any knowledge, experience, whatever. But yeah, I think that'll do it here. Hopefully helped you guys a little bit. Till the next one.